Look at all the tapes.
Yeah, just so you'll know, this is the tapes we started with. 3/4 and 1 inch. This is how big the tapes were when we were making television back in the day.
Wow.
And you can see as progression went on, there are even some bigger ones down there. It was 1 inch, 3/4, and it got down to this size, which they call beta.
Beta?
That's beta tapes right there. The cameras were huge. And then, you know, it gradually moved down to digital and then mini digital stuff. And now it's all on a SD card that's tiny, which that technology is crazy. But we produced all the TV in this
And
building.
see, they're all over there on that side too, over there.
Yeah, and the further they go, the smaller they get.
Wonder how many hours that you have been behind a camera. That it would be staggering.
Yeah.
If you were to actually be able to put a pencil to it and figure it up, it would be nuts. But you can still kind of see the remnants of the old retail store right here, the way they had it set up. All this down here was clothing down here in the bottom. Had it fixed up. Really, really cool the way that this worked right here.
Yeah, this was originally the Western Auto. You know, if you go back far enough, but we put different offices, and we actually produced all the television for Mossy Oak right here, and that's back in the TNN, ESPN, ESPN2, the Outdoor Channel, Sports Channel. All that was produced and finished right here, and I was always very, very proud of that because back then that was a complicated thing. It was way more buttons and whistles and lights and dials, and we were able to figure that out here and send the finished product to TNN or ESPN. And at one time we were producing 5 shows at one time: Hunting the Country, Remington Country, the American Hunter, a Ducks Unlimited show. We had a show on the Golf Channel for a year called Second Season, which was all PGA guys who loved to hunt. And being from Mississippi, it's not like a TV hub. It's not like a production capital. And so we were always real proud we figured that out. Thank God for Mississippi State. They had a great production school over there. We hired our first guy there, and he hooked all the machinery up. But I always kind of worn that like a little badge that we were able to pull that off right here in Mississippi.
This was your baby. This was your baby. You saw it from the time it was born all the way to where it is now through maturity. And like you just said, little old West Point, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's all social media now, way more complicated. But at the time, the TV was all anybody had. They didn't have phones and internet and YouTube and all that. So it was kind of divine intervention, fun to see, and it was a special time.
Let's mention something else too. These tapes right here, tons and tons of footage. Y'all have an app, the Mossy Oak Go app, and that's very cool because you can dig back through that stuff and watch the old stuff back there from way back in the day. And it don't cost you a dime, does
it?
It's free.
The Mossy Oak Go app's the coolest thing ever. We have, you know, during turkey season, and I'm not going to twist your arm about turkey season because I know you're a thug and you don't like to talk about it, but every Monday night, you know, we have a live thing with people sending in content. You can go to Mossy Oak Go and watch all that new content. The most popular thing, what gets viewed more than anything, is the old stuff.
The old stuff.
That
Hunting the Country, man.
98, you know, Barry Winsel, Tom Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
All those old shows. People, for whatever reason, love that. And it was a lot of storytelling going on. You know, Toxie never was a guy to get on there and say, I'm the host, I'm gonna shoot a big deer. So we were kind of forced to be telling stories about either who we were with or where we were or you know, what kind of animal it was. And guy at ESPN told me one time, he said, look, nice video and stories and characters will never go out of style. And he's right. If you look at the people that are successful on Instagram or especially YouTube, they're characters and they're teaching you stuff.
That's right.
That was good advice.
Exactly, exactly. So when I said across the street, that's where it started at. It's over there. Used to go over there when they were sowing it. They sewed it over there and put it together, and you could look through basically boxes of stuff that had blemishes and things like that on it. May have a hole in it or something wasn't sewn right on or anything like that. And that would have been back in 1989. And then they took and moved over to here to this building that's across the street on Main Street here in West Point. And this was a retail location where they sold stuff for a long time. And then they built the Mossy Oak Mall over there on the side of the highway. It's a huge complex over there. So had a good time with O'Cuz. Ought to be a good podcast there. So this whole deal right here, this is part 2 of the podcast with Ronnie Cuz Strickland. You can go to Fist Full of Dirt on your Apple podcast app on your phone, or just about anywhere where major podcasts are hosted, and punch that in and you'll find that podcast. Today's podcast, we talked about firewood and all the ins and outs on firewood. Last week's podcast, we talked about chainsaws. I communicated with Cuz this morning, and he said that we were definitely going to have to do a Cotton Top 3 2.0. So I told him, I said, I'm game, buddy, anytime, because I really, really enjoyed the podcast. I'm a techie kind of guy, like buttons and lights and computers and everything like that goes along with that, and it fits me well. I love it. This whole thing here with me was kind of a going back in time, if you will. 1989, where I said at the end of the video there. I mean, that's just prior to that was when Mossy Oak started. I was still in high school. I graduated high school in 1990. I remember coming over here in 89. I had a little S10 four-wheel drive pickup truck that I got that summer, and had a little V6 in it. And I actually had family that lived over here in West Point and had some property over there. And to this day, Dad still owns property over there in West Point. And I still go over there and hunt. But I cut my teeth over there hunting in Clay County, Mississippi, like you wouldn't believe. That's where I spent all my time hunting at. That's where I basically learned to deer hunt. That is definitely where I learned the turkey hunt. I hunted a place over there that was mind-boggling as far as turkeys. It was just absolutely freaking incredible for turkeys. It was, and the deer was unbelievable too. Just a great place. I mean, you couldn't get hardly a better place to hunt. And so there's always been a special place in my heart for Clay County, Mississippi, West Point, over just west of town on the Sacatonchee, creek bottom over there, all up and down through there. Spent hours and hours and hours over there. I still go. I don't have all the other property no more, but I still go over there and I hunt on our personal property that Dad still owns over there. And I enjoy going over there. It's a little bit of a drive. I say a little bit. It's about, from my house over there, it's about 41 miles, I think. And I've got a lot of videos filmed from over there too. What I need to do now is I need to go to the Mossy Oak Mall over there, and I need to roam through there. I need to talk to Cuz and get clearance to go over there and film. It's actually a cool place. It's been there for a long time now. I'm sitting there thinking, and that was in 89 when I was across the street over there where the video ended at. And then they built the building where we did the podcast, or they didn't build it, they moved over there. And they were there till the late 90s, I believe it was. And they built that new place over there where they're at. And that's where they've been ever since, because I bought a bow that I still have to this day, and I'm going to take it and fix that bow back up, and I'm going to shoot deer with it this fall. I thought about buying a new one, And I could, a new one, like what I want, would run about $2,000, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take my 1995 model PSE Baby G, and I'm going to have it, I'm going to probably take it over and get somebody to go through it, put me some new strings on it, and just fix it back up for him and get it where it's ready to rock and roll. Give me a couple dozen arrows, and I'm going to go back to town. I used to hunt deer and turkey every day. Back then, gas wasn't nowhere near what it costs now. So I traveled to West Point over there pretty much every day. I would either go before I went to the woods in the mornings, and of course I'd have a heck of a drive back to the woods depending on where we was, or I'd go in the afternoons when we got done. I killed an incredible amount of animals, and I hunted both states. I hunted Mississippi and Alabama. Every year I shot the limit of turkeys in both states, every year. Hanging out with Cuz kind of sparked the fire, got the fire back going, and I want to go over there and I want to film a video inside the Mossy Oak store over there. I think it'd be cool walking through there and doing that. And so who knows what's to come. Some people have mentioned they'd like to see me put on a podcast, do a podcast, and that's kind of the direction that I'm going. I would really like to get into that. I'd like to pull back from YouTube just a little bit. My goal would be, just kind of thinking out loud here, I know some people are probably going to scream when I say this, but to get back to just a 4-day week YouTube posting, and just post 4 days a week and have a podcast. And that would be the 5 days, and I could integrate a lot of cool people in the podcast. I've talked to, I've thought about a lot of different people that I could include in it and bring them in front of y'all that are either in the industry or really what I would call cool characters. Appreciate it, Mr. Cuz, invite me into the fold, man, and us hitting this thing out of the park like what we've done. Loved it, dude. Loved it. Just a brilliant guy, and I hope to hang around with him more where I can absorb some more and learn some more from him, because he's a smart dude. You can check out Mossy Oak online. You can just Google Mossy Oak, bam, it'll pop it up. Fistful of Dirt podcast. I got some other podcasts to go along with it. And if you need any tree work done, right down below is my email address. Hit me up. Appreciate it. Later, taters.